Welcome to episode number 22 of the CoinSec podcast. On this week's episode, we discuss cracking passphrases with hashcat. Also, ZCash is battling ASICs, and a proof of concept was developed for doing a command and control channel over the Ethereum network. All that and more on episode number 22 of the CoinSec podcast.
You want to secure your assets.
We can crack the wallet.
Oh, we've done it before.
We've got rigs, character adversary, attribution mode.
With our private keys combined.
Building some kind of blockchain super weapon.
There's just a number of vulnerabilities that are in the smart contracts.
Math. It's probably scary.
They all secretly mine cryptocurrency.
What coin can I trust? Which one is cryptographically secure?
Don't roll your own crypto. CoinSec podcast. The CoinSec podcast is a podcast about cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies with a focus on securing them. Don't let the hum of our dual-purpose crypto miners / password crackers in the background disrupt your listening pleasure. I am your host, Bo Bullock, and this is episode number 22 of the CoinSec podcast. Guys, I missed you so much when I was gone, so I'm glad to be back. We missed last week, because probably halfway my fault because I was gone 2 weeks in a row, but dude, these guys pulled an episode together without me, which is amazing.
Yeah, we're not capable.
They got it. They killed it.
We're not worthy.
I'm so proud. I'm like a proud parent, you know.
We talked about that on the episode.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to it. I need to go listen to it. I listened to all right. So Mike sent me the episode, and I went ahead and did the editing and stuff. I added the beginning and the outro, but I was in a cabin in the woods, so and my wife would have killed me if I spent more than an hour working on just editing and the intro music and stuff. So I ended up basically just getting that ready to posting it, and then moving on with
you don't even care. You don't even
care. I care so much. Trust me, I do.
But like the kids, you don't even want. It's
yeah. Oh, come on. No.
I'm just kidding. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, all right. So with me today, Mike is actually on his way out to Arizona, so he's not with us today. He's journeying across the country. He's moving across the country. So today we've got Steve Borosh and Ralph May. What's going on, guys?
Yeah, we're here.
We're here,
guys. We have to make an actual soundboard so that you guys
I've seen a bunch of mouth it. You know what? If the worst part is, I'd be pressing them all the time. I'd be like, just exactly.
For this
everything. Yeah, it would be everyone would be all right. Honestly, you could cut it off with a soundboard, please. Be it's all I got, man. It's all I got.
I think it'd be epic. We need to make that happen. But
Hey, I'm coming at you live from Seattle this week, so I'm on the road, but I still was able to make it. So, pretty happy about that.
I am very happy about that. I'm very happy about that.
I'm coming to you live from my parents' basement.
It's Steve. It's one thing to be on the road on a work trip and be live because you got time, but when you're with your family and on a vacation situation. It's hard, man. It's hard.
Oh, no, yeah, that's a no-go. I mean, vacation is vacation time, and that goes to the wife.
I mean, so, guys, I honestly try to just disconnect for the most part from, most technology while I was gone, too. And I come back, and you guys lost, $180 billion market cap while I was gone. What the hell?
That's a skill in itself, and you should thank us because, maybe if you would have bought, now would be the time.
I'm gone for 2 weeks, and you guys lose billions of dollars. Come on, man. Mm-hmm. You had one job. Keep the market cap up while I was gone.
I couldn't keep my money.
I don't know if you remember.
Teardrop.
I don't know if you remember this, but so I guess it'd be 3 weeks ago now. We had a section on the show where you guys asked me what I predicted the price was going to be in the following week, and I think I said 7,700 or something. Remember that? I do.
Yep.
Where's it sitting at today? 6,700 for Bitcoin. So 1,000 less than I guessed 3 weeks ago.
1,000 less. Hey, it's been on a bit of a rally the last day or so, but not quite as much as you thought. Yeah.
So you're saying you're not the McAfee we all thought you were. God damn it.
I mean, I think I kind of was up to a point, but then it just died. I don't know what happened, man. Actually, I kind of know what happened. I don't know if you guys saw, but like CoinRail got hacked. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, around the time that happened is when the market kind of plunged. It was June 11th.
Right.
Today is June 21st. We're sitting at $287 billion market cap. Last week, like I went back and looked from last week, and it looks like it was right around 267 last week. So it is like what you said, Steve. It is up a little bit, but still, like I mean, it was like 350 or 370 somewhere around there when I left. So that was 3 weeks ago, right? So we've lost a lot. $100 billion.
It's all right. We don't even need that money. It's fine. It's like whatever.
It's just crazy to see that happen. I mean,
It's true. Yeah.
Where's the bottom at? I kind of thought that,
I mean, like I bought it $15. So I mean, that felt like the bottom then. I was like, oh, this just can't get any worse, right?
Sure, but I mean, and I guess when I say where's the bottom? Where's the bottom for this year? Because
Sure.
January all the way up through now has just been like crazy roller coaster. It's been up and down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. It's like we get these little like glimmers of hope that it's like maybe recovering and coming back up, but then it just dies again.
Yeah. So I mean, historically speaking, I mean this happened, plenty of times. So where's the new top at? Is the new top, is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? And is next year the $40,000 or $50,000 top? When the mania really kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll see, right? If I had a crystal ball, I would invest all my money in that.
And we are not financial advisors, so make your own decisions.
Well, McAfee's no longer backing ICOs either.
That's right.
So where are all these
right?
pump and dumps going to go? Yeah.
Yeah, where are they going to pay? Yeah.
Who's the next?
Yeah,
pump and
that's
dump
what
king?
No kidding. But if you do sort coinmarketcap.com by the change in the last 24 hours, it's interesting that there are some, you can tell, obvious pumps on some of these coins and tokens.
Yeah, what the heck is centrality?
Right, up 58% in the last 24 hours.
It's the new hotness.
Centrality. 16 cents a coin currently. Is this a token? It's actually sitting at the number 80 spot on CoinMarketCap, which is actually pretty high up there.
Not too bad.
So they're a venture studio that partners with leading innovators in key industries to create a marketplace of applications. These applications allow consumers to manage everyday tasks and experiences using peer-to-peer transactions, all via one login and using blockchain-enabled infrastructure. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe they're just something new. Maybe that's, maybe they just hit a new exchange or something recently. But
right.
Yeah, wow.
Ethereum,
It's just funny to see the things that influence the market and how some coins make it and when others don't. And just kind of how they all tie into each other.
Actually, what's crazy is if you look at the charts for centrality, I mean, apparently it's been around a while. So since April, actually, it was worth a lot more in April. Just kind of tailed off, but we're kind of getting off subject, I think.
We can just start talking about this all night. We just be like, oh, well, this went down and this went up and blah blah blah. And Tether's still $1. That's weird.
Yeah, still. I mean, that's weird.
I've invested so much in Tether, just hoping it's going to go up in price one day.
I know.
One day.
It will. It will. Don't worry.
So,
it's my staple.
Steve and Ralph, have you guys worked on any interesting projects lately?
Ooh.
Like, it doesn't even have to be a cryptocurrency thing. I'm just curious, like, project-wise, you guys working on anything cool?
Yeah, I mean, I was researching Apache Felix recently and how to create malicious like Java bundles, and did a blog on that recently. So
yeah, I saw your blog post. That's
I saw
awesome.
that. Yeah.
yeah, and then as soon as I do something like that, I'm wondering like how long until like cryptocurrency miners
Yes.
come along behind me and use that stuff for their profit. And I'm like, well, damn, I hope system administrators see the stuff that I write.
That's awesome. And go, well, they need to go patch their shit. Like that's the big thing there.
That's right. Well, it's usually just default, passwords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm on engagement right now, and I'm going through all the web interfaces, and like I would say, maybe 3 out of 10, it's default creds, right? So I don't know. It happens often, especially on internals, right? I mean, this isn't external stuff, right?
Right.
But yeah, what is it? I've been working on a project recently too, building simulated environments for doing stuff like advanced endpoint protection and stuff. So doing some stuff like that. A lot more companies are using it. A lot of those products are in the space. Right?
Yeah, Ralph, I don't know if you saw, but one of the major endpoint like not behavioral analysis. What do they call them? EDR, right? What is that endpoint?
Yep. What detection and response?
Yeah, like one of the leading ones. I'm not going to name them. One of the leading ones just started a home version, and you can buy a license.
I did. I saw that.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is it? I have access to that, but what do you call it? The whole point of this like lab thing that I've been working on is really just kind of putting these through the paces, right? A lot of these leading EDR companies don't tend to be very forward thinking as far as like sharing these products out. They kind of it's a cat and mouse game,
exactly.
Arguably speaking, right?
That's why it's so cool that like there's like a home version. I should go buy the license, and now I can try to break it.
Yeah, right. So, and I think that's a lot for the community. But yeah, so building labs out that kind of get to put it through the paces. All of these products, I don't care who the vendor is vulnerable in some way, shape, or form. Right.
Sure.
It's just whether you've actually got to put it through, the paces, right? You've ever, got to test it. They're all vulnerable in different ways. Some of them are very good. Some of them are very easy, but they are definitely, arguably speaking, better than conventional antivirus. So as we adapt and change as attackers, we need to take that into consideration when we make our attacks. So
absolutely,
that's what I've been working on. Yeah,
that's awesome. Let me ask you guys this: do you guys ever try to crack passphrases specifically? Not just passwords, but like actually try
long phrases.
Yeah, long phrases like multi-word phrases.
I mean, I've done like triple word dictionary combinations to make what do you call them, Markov chains.
Mm-hmm.
So you create a Markov chain of 4 or 3 to 5 words, and it's supposed to be something that sounds like it could be spoken in English. And I had some limited success with that, but those are usually highly targeted. Most of your typical password cracking hasn't worked, and had to move on to using that Markov stuff to generate something that might be a phrase, and then even like put rules against that to toggle case.
Yes,
because you never know what case might be either too. So yeah, password cracking, it does get complex when you get into some tough ones.
Yeah, so
that's fun though. I really enjoy it.
The reason I brought that up is because I sent you guys this in chat too, but I'm on a test right now where the company has a minimum of a 14 character password policy, and I've already got their
1, 2, 3,
all the
4,
domain
5, 6. Sorry, I'm just thinking about that one.
Yeah. So I've got all the domain password hashes because I escalated to DA, and I'm working on cracking them. And I was going through like my normal crack routine, and I've written blog posts. I have other videos about like cracking password hashes efficiently, like using hashcat and using rules and mangling and combining word lists and all the typical stuff, right? And so I went through all the typical stuff I normally go through, ran it through CrackStation. And like, this was the thing that blew my mind. Like, so CrackStation is 14 billion common passwords. Like, it's a bunch of password lists, a bunch of words, a bunch of phrases from various sources like books and stuff, and then like all of Wikipedia is in CrackStation. It's crazy what's there. And it only got 22 passwords out of like 3,700 something. Like that blew my mind initially. So I was like, okay, so obviously I need to try to expand what I'm doing here. Like, it's not just going to work with, adding like some numbers or appending some characters to a typical word list. So I was like, okay, so how can I go about doing the passphrase approach, And actually found an interesting project where somebody actually wrote some rules, specific hashcat rules specifically for passphrases. It's in a GitHub.
Yeah. I think I've used that before.
Yeah. So it's called passphrase word list. This is the GitHub repo, passphrase - word list. And the rules do things like, it takes like a list of phrases that are separated by a space. So like you'd have like, correct space, horse space, battery space, staple. And it would take that word and then mangle it into, a ton of different variations, like putting a period in between every word, putting no periods, putting capitals on each one, and then also doing like, substituting like leet speak, and then, throwing years on the end, all that stuff, right? But so the thing is, the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm getting to a point where, where I ran that today on a rig that I have that got through it really quick. It was like, 30 seconds, got through the passphrase list that they provide. So they actually provide a passphrase list that they generated that is based off of a number of different things that they've scraped from different sources. And I initially ran that and I got a lot of hits on it. And I was like, okay, so what's next? How do you go about cracking more passphrases if you don't have, a list of common passphrases? So so I started thinking about like, how can I generate more common passphrases? So I wrote like a new script to try to like generate more passphrases. And basically like my idea was like, all right, so if I take like the top, 100 words, English words, and mangle that into a list and then use that with it. That was the kind of the initial driving factor. But then I thought, well, we got the Bitcoin BIP39 list too. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was saying, yeah, your logic is perfect, because that's I don't think I went quite as far as you, but I did use the Google top word lists, and that's what I was using to combine for my word lists before. So good approach.
Yeah, it's not too quick yet. Like it's so I wrote it in PowerShell because that's my thing. I like PowerShell a lot. And so I did a little bit of baselining on it, and so far, so if you were to take like a list of, let's say you had a list of just 15 words, right? 15 words with 4 words per passphrase. So you're generating like your typical like correct horse battery staple kind of example. But with 15 words, right? That generates a total of 32,000 passphrases, 32,760 passphrases. That took 1 minute and 30 seconds. So not too bad, right? To generate 32,000 possible passphrases. But it's so like incremental from there, or exponential, I should say. So for 25 words, which is a total of 303,600 passphrase. 303,600 passphrases. That took 1 hour and 10 minutes to do for 303,000.
Yeah, what was the size of the file when it was finished?
It was only 8 meg, actually. It wasn't bad.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, think about it. It's only, like 303,000 lines. I mean, that's not terrible in a text file.
Sure.
If you get some CUDA cores at that, you might be able to speed it up a little, right?
I know, right? Yeah. Seriously, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's always how it goes, though. Like, at first you write something like, let's say you write in PowerShell or whatever, right? It's simple, but it's not very efficient. But as soon as you start trying to like really speed it up, when you start moving into writing in, like CUDA cores or, the NVIDIA's API or whatever, that adds complexity, but it also can speed things up significantly, right? But you also always have to kind of like prove a concept, right? So
I have one running right now that it has 100 words. So it's basically the top 100 words that are greater than 4 characters. So I didn't include things like at, in, like your typical like short words. So greater than 4 characters, top 100 words, which generates a total of 94 million passphrases. Okay. It's been running so far for about 6 hours.
Damn. Yeah. It's 7 GPUs, right?
No, this is just on a
He's a
laptop.
CP.
Right. I'm thinking like a cracking rig here. So
No,
sorry.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
but
no,
so
this
the
is
cool thing is
pretty
like you just have to generate it and then you have it to use for other things, right? Like
Sure.
I don't know. I wanted to just create the script so that like people can like just run this and generate things on the fly. Like you could grab all kinds of stuff. You know, you could generate, you know, a list of common words like use cool, you know, like to go scrape the company's website. And you know, grab like the top 100 words from like the company's website and then generate a word list off of that. But anyways, yeah, I'm probably way off subject, but I mean, I guess it kind of applies a little bit to the way people choose passwords, right? For locking in their wallets and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would suggest also if you're doing like long sequences like that, you could look at this keyboard walk generator.
Yes.
If you go to GitHub under Rich5, RICH, and then the number 5, he has a keyboard walk generator, and then I've used this before with some success where you get down to that last, 10% of the word list that won't crack, and you got to throw whatever kitchen sink at it. Well, if you've got that like 14 character minimum, you can make a 14 character keyboard walk where people typically, they'll just walk the keyboard to make a password because it'll meet the length requirement.
Sure.
And it's easy, and it's right. No, I find it a lot in Surface accounts, where system administrators will want something that's memorable. So instead of a passphrase, they'll just walk the keyboard because it's easy to remember a pattern.
So for those that are listening to this and they're expecting cryptocurrency, blockchain stuff, this does apply to you because we are trying to crack your password to get access to your Bitcoins. So I think the thing to take away probably is that just doing a passphrase is not necessarily enough, especially if you're using common words. So maybe would you guys agree that it's time to not just recommend just picking like, I don't know, 4 words and maybe, I don't know, like I don't know, using more. I don't even know. What do you recommend? Like 5 words, 6 words? Do you create like a list of words you can't use? Like do you grab
I do have like a recommendation, right? And so this is what I do, and this isn't the only way to fix this problem, but it's just to forget about passwords, right? So use something like a only key or a what do you call it? The other one password. Well, no, it's not just one password. I'm thinking about your password yourself. So the generation device, right? So they have what are the other like token devices that they have too that'll spit out passwords?
Like RSA or Google Authenticator or something like that.
Yeah, no, those are for the two-factor.
You're talking
about the password generation tools.
Yeah. So like an UbiKey, right? And what it does is you press once and it'll spit out like a 25 character randomly generated password, right? So it's taking that to one more step. Like instead of thinking about things that I can remember, thinking about buttons I can press in front of me, right? That really takes it to the next level. When you have a 25 character randomly generated password, it becomes increasingly hard, statistically speaking, to ever crack or break that. Yes, I can't remember it, but as long as I have this key with me and it plugs into USB, it acts as the keyboard and it spits out that password, right? So there's no software required. That's one recommendation, right? That's one way to kind of take it up one more notch without having to remember any passwords. All I have to do is know how to press a button.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one way to kind of take it up above just having a second factor authentication, which is obviously a very good idea. And it works very well as long as you use like something like your cell phone or something out of band. But so that's another thing you can use.
That also requires that wherever you're entering your password accepts that, right? Like most normal Windows domains don't probably, right?
No. These particular devices both run as HID keyboard devices. So whenever you press the button, it's just
I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah. So it's basically just typing it in.
Yeah, they're not. It's literally a hardware device that will input keyboard inputs. It has nothing to do with whether your system.
That's an interesting approach. I mean, so would you recommend that organizations like push that out to their users?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then the users don't have to remember passwords. They can have extremely secure passwords, and the only thing they have to do is hold on to that key, right? In the scenario where they lose that key, they can reset the password. That's part of the organization. It's easy to do. But that's one way to really increase security. I mean, I can think about it as an attacker. If I had a 25 character password that is all randomly generated from every user, it's just kind of like game over, right? That's not going to be my avenue of approach. So that's one idea.
All right. Well, and then when it comes to just like generating a unpredictable password, I try to, you think of horse battery staple as a good example of just words thrown together. But, like, because me, when I'm trying to crack path, I try to think of it like from the offensive side. I try to use things like predictable patterns, like Markov chains, to generate that stuff. So you want, like most people think of something that they're going to remember. Well, it usually makes sense, right? It usually is in some kind of a pattern. But if you make your passwords to where they're like not a pattern, they're like words that don't go together. I think you have a higher chance of keeping your stuff secure. We can't two-factor everything. I can't two-factor my Monero wallet, I don't think. But then it comes down to just having a complex password and something that you can remember. And I think if you just take some random stuff and put words together that you could remember, but maybe aren't in like a logical form, it just increases your password security.
Sure. That's
just like the basic thing you could do is, just not have a predictable password.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, don't just use a phrase that's like, from a dictionary somewhere, or not a dictionary, but from a book. Yeah,
there's password generators out there that do that. They'll take words from a book, and that's basically what Markov chains do. Is they'll do that, and they'll look at the patterns and then make chains of phrases based on common language. So,
like run down the street or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't buy Ripple.
This is this is like a historical thing, though. Like passwords have always been kind of like the weakest link in this whole thing,
weak
right?
Point. Yeah.
Well, what's funny about it is like, all right, so when I feel like we're getting to a point where, how like with hashcat you can specify characters for each insertion point. So like I can say like. Sure. Like I want to do any character for the first one. I want to do any character for the second one. Or you can actually specify specific characters. So what if we just specified words, like a list of words for each spot, right? I mean, then at that point, we're doing essentially like a brute force attack. Like, I mean, like, dude, like brute forcing like 6 characters with 26. Actually, not even. It'd be more than 26, right? So 26 for each lowercase, 26 for uppercase, and then numbers and special characters. Like that's nothing.
Yeah, that's why I wrote Seed Buster. I don't know if that's public or not, but
I haven't heard about Seed Buster.
I've seen it.
So it basically takes the BIP lists and makes mnemonic seeds. Into a dictionary to brute force, Bitcoin wallets and stuff.
Nice. It sounds like this should be public.
So it takes. yeah. It should
not for your wallet.
Yeah. But before I started that project, thinking of how do you hack somebody's coin wallet when they generate just a seed of some kind, and you could go by human words, and that can crack some wallets. But if you go by how seeds are generated, they're different for each wallet, and each wallet typically uses a different list, like the BIP list, or some are proprietary. And if you know the proprietary list, then you can increase your chances of guessing those wallets. So it's just interesting for me because I started in security, cracking passwords. That's how I got interested in it. And it's just interesting to me to think of how humans generate their passwords and then it's almost like social engineering, but you just try to, outsmart the other person by guessing their password. But that's different when you're talking about wallets that use seeds. So that's why I wrote Seed Buster, because it uses those algorithms to kind of generate seeds because people will sometimes hit the button a few times until a seed kind of makes sense in their mind.
Huh.
And that introduces the predictable pattern kind of law, I guess, of people take language and kind of do predictable patterns. Like if you're from Philly, you talk a certain way, you know? You go, oh, you're from Philly, right? Oh, yeah. Because you speak a certain language. So you can do that with humans and passwords as well.
Nice.
Pretty deep stuff, but yeah.
That's
coin related at all.
No, it totally is. You're getting into the psychology of people choosing passwords, which I think is absolutely relevant to kind of what we're trying to help, do here. Alrighty, well, we should probably move on to the news. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right, cool. We've got a few pretty decent stories for this week. The first one up is that ZCash is battling ASICs. So
who's not?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, who's not battling ASICs? Well, apparently Bitmain have been increasing their share of extracted blocks in Zcash network all the way up to 40% so far. So that's pretty big. That is it says they're undermining the position of the largest pool of supply pool, and that we might have a 51% problem here pretty soon with Zcash, which is kind of terrifying.
For any cryptocurrency, that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and I know miners that are moving away from it, and you think about it, the problem only gets worse because as ASICs come on the market, the difficulty goes up, and then the lower tier miners end up leaving, which makes more room for the ASIC miners.
That brings a great point. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so it just kind of keeps feeding itself until you're going to have to do something about it. Otherwise, the network is not going to be distributed in the fashion that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what do they do? Are they talking about forking?
I haven't read that for certain, but they're going to have to do. They're going to have to.
So what is Zcash is Equihash, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this applies to any other chain that uses Equihash.
Sure, but you have to look at the reasons why Zcash is being targeted right now, and I think a lot of that has to do with it just became basically fiat tradable on Gemini.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So the price shot up, we saw last month, and then it was coincided perfectly with the release of the ASICs for Equihash. And it just all kind of fed it into each other. And I think once this goes, then the next most popular Equihash. And the those ASICs are just going to migrate to the next one. So look out. You're next.
Do you think that we're going to see 51% attacks? There's a limited amount of things you can do with a 51% attack. It does cost you money every hour that you're conducting that attack. It's not a free or cheap attack. And you also, exchanges start to hunker down, right? Get ready for the hurricane, per se, by adding, ridiculous amount of confirmations to stifle the 51% attack. So there is mitigations, right? You could make it where it's, the next 500 blocks before I confirm a transaction. Yes, it would take, I don't know how long the Zcash is, but let's say it takes, a couple hours or 2 days. But now it's, really expensive. To make money off of it would just be a crazy amount.
Yeah, so you lose users and you lose nodes, and then you're left with ASICs and other, influential mining farms.
Well, I think the big problem here is that the ASICs are coming from a specific company, right? It's Bitmain. And how hard would it be? All right, so let's say we are the most dominant ASIC processing company in the world, right? Like that's what Bitmain is. They have owned the ASIC market forever. and they're at a point now where they can probably crank out like a brand new ASIC whenever they want for whatever currency, And that's kind of what's happened with ZCash. Like they cranked this one out, and I don't think they've shipped it yet to users, to people who've bought it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem because, all right, Bitmain, they might not be malicious at all. They might not, be thinking about performing a 51% attack. But the fact is that somebody who's that powerful can do it if they have the ability to,
Sure. It they have the money. That was always the problem. And I agree with you, though. Like, the question is does the network become more secure when we hunker down and figure out how to prevent these attacks? Or does it become less secure when these attacks succeed, right? The argument that goes, attacks only get more sophisticated, not less sophisticated, I think is true, right?
Certainly.
And I think that, hopefully the same would apply for, how we secure these coins, right? So as more and more attacks go, toward all these different coins, we come up with more and more ingenious algorithms to try to circumvent those attacks, right?
Sure.
Whether that plays out, I don't know, we'll see. I think it really is a cat and mouse game, but, as much as I say it's a cat and mouse game, in this particular scenario, it is a money game, right? It is how much more money does Bitmain want to spend as opposed to the new coin that comes out that everyone moves to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Next story is about a C2 tool. This is like amazing to me. So C2 is command and control. And I know you guys know what that means, but I'm pretty sure most of our listeners probably, I don't know, they probably didn't understand what C2 meant, but C2, command and control. So this is a tool that would allow for us as attackers to have a command and control level of access to a system on your network. Somebody wrote a tool that is a proof of concept over the Ethereum public network. And this blew my mind. When I saw this, I was like, super happy about this because I've been hoping somebody did something like this. It honestly, I wish I had the time to do it myself. I wish
to do it. Yeah.
My question has always been, and full disclosure, I haven't used it. So, and this could be easily, solved, but, what if the particular company or network just says no more Ethereum connections, right?
So this is Go ahead, Steve.
No, I wasn't saying. Go ahead.
No, this is Ralph. I was just gonna say, how do you stop that?
Well, so that's the big question I had. Like you, I have not actually tested this out yet. So what I want to know is how is it actually communicating? Because obviously, you'd have to have some kind of outbound access, right? And if it's just using web, HTTPS or HTTP for that matter, over normal HTTPS ports or web ports, then that's probably not a big deal. But what port does Ethereum's nodes communicate over? That's what I want to know, because that would be required to be allowed outbound, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're doing this, which, there's always some way to block it. That's if, and I put air quotes here, so if you detect it.
This is using port 30,304 by default, but you can change it for your own blockchain, I guess.
So can you set up your own node?
That's what you're doing. You're setting up your own.
You could probably specify it on port 80 or something, and then just ride web traffic out.
Yep.
So that's really cool. That's awesome, and it probably doesn't even look like normal web traffic, I'd bet.
No, it actually does transactions and stuff.
So I wonder how web proxies would view that. I wonder if you could even proxy it through a web proxy somehow. It would take a lot of work, and you'd have to make it look like web traffic somehow, I would assume.
I think this has some more play in the second level, right? So and I say we, when we're thinking about this as a red teamer, we're like, hey, how do I make sure that we don't get blocked at the proxy or whatever, right?
Right.
But think of this as the second level, right? So the first level is we get outbound traffic out of the proxy. Maybe we use some public CDNs or whatever, right? But how do I not get associated with this traffic, right? So this is kind of like the Tor of transactions, right? So like on the second level, right, we don't want to get shut down. And what I mean by that is that, like, historically speaking, like some of the bigger, and this actually happened too with like the VPN, home routers and stuff like that. They shut down the domains and all this other stuff. With some kind of like blockchain transaction, you don't have to worry about that at the second level, right? You can hide yourself, and you don't have to worry about somebody like shutting down your domain or whatever it may be that you're calling back on your C2 channel, right? So on the first level, yes, I might have to solve getting outbound by using some public CDN. But on the second level, I can make transactions that use this public ledger and that can't literally be shut down, right? There's no one node I can turn off or one domain I can seize or something like that to stop.
So that brings up a great point. So all right, so if I'm a node, right? How do they, I guess, retrieve the other nodes they're talking to? Because that would be what you'd have to shut down, right? Because all right, so let's say that like we got an initial session, right? And that was through the client that we put on the victim's machine was trying to communicate with the Ethereum network and found some nodes, right? It would have to find nodes to talk to, right?
Sure.
So it probably generates a list of nodes, I imagine, right? It probably creates, and then if one dies, it tries to connect to the other one.
Sure.
And I would assume that would continue until all the nodes are like, unable to be talked to. I mean, how does I don't know how it works. I'm not like that familiar with how the Ethereum
I don't know, but I'm interested in 51% attacking the C2 infrastructure and taking over it.
I don't know if that would work, but that'd be yeah. No, I don't know if you saw. Did you guys watch the video from this post?
I did check out the video. I did watch it.
Isn't it cool? Like he's got a pretty cool little web console for it set up.
Yeah. He's running commands. You could run commands across like multiple systems too. So like a single beacon.
Yeah, and it's basically just doing like smart contract posting, and it's entirely written in Solidity.
So, like I said, I think this is the second level. This is like the Tor of command and control, right? It's just really hard to stop that piece of it, okay? So like you might be able to block it inside your network if you can figure out how it's making its first leg.
Sure.
But you're never going to be able to stop the actual smart transaction. Like there's no one to shut down, there's no server to go after, so on and so forth. It's just kind of there, and it can live forever. So I think it does, provide.
Yeah, it's like an implant that's talking to like I don't know, like a normal cloud system or something, that
Sure.
Like let's say it was Google Drive or something, Yeah. I mean that's more web based, which this isn't even necessarily web based. It's a different protocol.
The more layers you separate yourself from your target, right? The more fungible or like the more like malleable you're going to be able to make that communication, right? And the more malleable it is, the more connections you can make, and the more rotations you can make, and all the other fun stuff. And at the end, as an attacker, they're looking to make it so it's very hard to connect who's attacking and where that system's coming from.
Yeah, so I take it back. It's actually not. It's not like Google Drive, because Google Drive would be attributable, right? Because like I'd have to have an account on the other side.
Sure.
But all right, so it's more like Pastebin, I think. Like to give a better example, it's like a client communicating with Pastebin, and me just publicly retrieving that data. So,
there's no account to shut down. Like I can't go to like I can go to Google and be like, hey, these guys are bad. You need to take their account down. They're like, okay, we took it down. But like with blockchain or like, smart contracts, I can't be like, take this guy down. It does not work like that, right? There's no one to go after. There's no one to arrest. There's nothing you can do, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It just seems like
I agree.
You're kind of stuck there. That contract, malicious or not, will always be there.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't think you'd. Yeah, this is something we need to definitely do some more research on, I think, guys. But let's go ahead and move on, because this is we're actually approaching the end. We've only got like another 15 minutes or so. All right, next story is BitThumb hacked for $30 million. So this was actually a really big story this week. And
Yeah,
actually,
that's kind of what everybody's attributing the
the
crash
price
to.
stuff too.
Yeah.
Well,
But I don't know. I think we were in a decline.
It's only 30 million. That's not much money. Come on.
yeah, it's not bad, but yeah, I mean, considering, right? I mean, we've seen like $500 million hacks. We've seen multi-million dollars, before.
What did they buy with that money? That's what I want to know.
Well, all right. So actually, what I want to know is
More
more
Bitcoin?
of the mystery that's kind of going on behind this. So Mike actually originally sent this article to us, and it was a tweet that somebody posted where they were showing how BitThumb had tweeted out that they were going to reimburse the 30 million to their users, and then they deleted that tweet. And then there was a lot of drama around that specifically. And now, just today, if you guys look at the latest article that I posted in the notes, there was another article that basically talked about BitThumb being maybe in like cahoots with bitblender.io, which is they boast themselves as the number one Bitcoin mixer on the darknet. So this gets super like conspiracy theorists right now. So get this. So it says that Bitblender claims to use smart technology to erase Bitcoin history and make transactions 100% anonymous and effect laundering Bitcoins. And some people are alleging that that the quote unquote hack was an inside job by BitThumb to generate funds or to avoid taxes. Now, get your aluminum foil hats out. But I don't know. I found that pretty interesting, and along with like the deleted tweet, I don't know. There's something interesting going on.
I
there.
mean that makes a very good point, though. To just fake loss to avoid taxes and possibly gain on insurance if there's a chance to insure cryptocurrency funds at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's an insurance fraud if it's anything. I mean, assuming that is a realistic, tinfoil hat conversation here, but yeah. So that's why our price is down. That's why we all are eating ramen noodles.
I'm more interested in like how Bitcoin Blender worked. Like, were they actually like doing multiple transactions and shuffling coins around wallets to obfuscate, kind of like Monero does?
Yeah,
they
I mean that's
basically
that's how
doing
the
what Monero does to
they
mix
it
up
around to a bunch of wallets. So I mean, all right. So in this article, which we'll link in the show notes, at the very bottom of the last paragraph, they talk a little bit about it. They say Bitblender itself is a secretive operation operating from the dark web with a single public presence, and at bitblender.io. And I think, let's see, they said, I feel like somewhere in here they mentioned that the coins from BitThumb came from Bitblender initially. Having trouble finding it at the moment, but yeah, I don't know, like, typical cryptocurrency drama stuff that we find, on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, but if there's like a technical way to like defraud people of their coins, like these people are gonna find it. Like, there's been some ingenious hacks and wallet steals and stuff like that, and this just kind of adds to that. Just people defrauding each other for this stuff because it's quote unquote worth money now.
Definitely. Alrighty, next story is 4 Ukrainians arrested for running fake exchanges.
Again, the defrauding.
So the thing that I don't understand about this, all right, so here, just to give our audience a kind of glimmer into what we're talking about here. The Ukrainian police announced the arrest of 4 suspects on accusations of running 6 fake cryptocurrency exchanges. So the thing I don't get is how are people getting tricked into, I don't know, giving these people money?
Yeah, you like using a service like that in the first place?
I guess. All right. So reading further through this article, it says that the group, like they actually rented Google ads that showed at like the top of cryptocurrency related searches, and then redirected traffic to clones of popular wallet and exchange portals. So that makes more sense, right? So if it's a clone of like Binance or BitThumb or Coinbase, I can see people.
We've actually seen that before too in some of the BGP hijacks.
Mm-hmm. Or the DNS rebindings or redirecting stuff. Not redirecting, DNS hijacking stuff, like where they hijack the DNS account and then they redirect it to like a server that looks the same, and then they harvest the credentials.
Yeah, almost capture.
Yeah, so apparently, like, I guess they basically just got to the top of searches, which is actually kind of smart if you think about it. Like, if I search for Binance and, I don't know, Binance.com wasn't like the top post or top source, but some other ad was, that'd be really bad, right? Because, you know, a user might enter their credentials thinking they're logging into Binance. Yeah, that's an interesting attack, right? So I guess to the audience listening, make sure that whenever you search for something, you're going to the right website, not just some, random third-party thing that might steal your credentials and steal all your cryptocurrency. Another article about people getting arrested. 16 arrested after deploying coin miners across internet cafes in 30 cities. So this is in China. I thought this was kind of funny.
Hot target.
And actually kind of fascinating at the same time. So the thing that kind of blew my mind here is that, so these 16 people, all right, well, there's two things that blew my mind, all right? First off, 16 people in a mining operation, right? Like that's a hefty group of people, dude.
That's like herding cats.
That's like a gang, man. Like,
yeah, especially for like a criminal organization, that where everybody's kind of got a mind of their own.
Well, so here's what's more, and I honestly, it's not super clear in the article, but I'm fairly certain that if you scroll down to the section that says similar arrests have taken place in Japan, they talk about another 16 people. So it's like 16 the magic number in China. Like you have like a gang of 16 people.
It's like a baker's dozen, man. I mean, it's the right amount.
So, all right, yeah. So the second one is about installing JavaScript coin miners. But
not very efficient.
Well, all right. So that's the first thing that blew my mind. The second thing is that the first group, so the group of 16 that got arrested initially, they've been operating since July of 2017.
Man.
So think about that. So they've had cryptocurrency miners installed on like internet cafe systems in 30 cities since July of 2017.
They made $1,000.
Well, no, that's the other group. That's
no, that was you're right. It was the one in Japan. It only made like $1,100.
Yeah, no, they have to have had coin.
Well, so this one they were mining Saya coin, and when internet cafe owners would complain about their computers that they would become unusable, They called to investigate, and they found that they had some serious issues. So, anyways, I don't know. I thought it's just interesting to see that the mining operation was going for that long without anybody noticing.
You know what's also interesting about this is that I wouldn't be surprised to see more and more detection from antivirus and other endpoint products hitting on regular mining software, right? Whereas like whenever you run some like basic mining software, you're going to be like, oh, you've got a virus, like this can't.
No, it absolutely does. Defender picks up XM rig, and like I use that to mine kryptonite currency sometimes, and you have to put an exception in or disable it.
On your own system or on other systems, Steve?
On your own system.
On other systems like the cafes.
on your system that you own and operate, yes.
Gotcha. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got my eye on you, Steve. I've been wondering why my CPU's been spinning up so hot lately.
Yeah, you answered my email, didn't you?
I did. This is
Big
sweet.
cell
This
doc.
was the best
Do
cat
not
picture I've ever seen in
enable
my life. So.
macros.
All right. We got another story. Thousands of mobile apps expose unprotected Firebase database. This one is actually funny because Mike, I guess a couple weeks ago, again, I didn't listen to the podcast, but apparently you guys talked about some I don't know, analytics or something around people's emotions towards Bitcoin or something.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess he was investigating.
He was checking that out and had some pretty cool findings on that.
Well, it is a pretty big story in the last couple of days because a researcher found like thousands of unprotected Firebase databases that were connected from mobile apps. And some of them included cryptocurrency applications.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess so the researchers scanned 2.7 million apps and found more than 3,000 apps that had 2,300 databases with more than 100 million records, making it a giant breach over 113 gigabytes of data.
That's pretty big.
It's pretty big. It's a lot of data. A lot of cryptocurrency transactions and random stuff too. So if you're a developer and you're listening to this podcast, which you're probably not, but if you are,
you're probably not, but if you should be,
even more deep, if you're a developer who uses a Firebase database and you're listening to this podcast, you should probably know that the only security features available to developers is authentication and rule-based authorization. And that you have to actually explicitly implement user authentication on all database rows and tables to protect your databases from unauthorized access.
Goodness.
Yeah.
It's par for the course, man. Par for the course.
Yeah.
Yes. Ralph, what is
opt-in security?
Yeah, Ralph, what is this story you got here, man? I see you added one.
Oh, yeah. So this is about Bitcoin and Tether, right? So in the article, they start talking about the fact, and this is actually a pretty I believe it's a peer-reviewed article, about the price manipulation with Tether, right? So what was going on, essentially, is that the researchers found that a lot of the Tether transactions, about 50%, were associated with the Bitcoin rise or fall, right? So, the question is Bitcoin really untethered? And they were using Tether to manipulate the market. That's really kind of the crux of this article. So,
well, isn't that what the government's been going after lately? Is price manipulation and stuff?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we have, as much as we like to think decentralized, it's still very fragile. And this market is easy or ripe for manipulation. And in the article, they kind of, go after that point that, and not necessarily to pick on Tether, but Tether was being used as the price manipulation market. So, when it goes up a lot and we're like, woohoo, maybe somebody is turning the knob as opposed to, the feeling as a whole. So kind of interesting.
So and I think this will help people listening to and myself, because honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Tether other than it's supposed to be fiat backed, right? It's supposed to have actual dollar to Tether value, right?
Yeah, so my limited understanding, and I could absolutely be wrong, but my limited understanding of Tether is that what it is backed by $1. So you can convert a cryptocurrency to a Tether, right, which would be pegged to the value of $1. So in your cryptocurrency equivalent of a Tether, let's say you have $500, it'll always be worth $500 no matter if the market falls or rises.
Right.
even though that currency is in some kind of like, cryptocurrency form where you have a private key and a public key to kind of prove your ownership. But the value of it doesn't move. The point being is that if, you can use this to exchange. So I can give you $1 of Tether. You can hold it in your cryptocurrency wallet. It'll always be worth $1, but I can exchange it for $1 of Bitcoin, right? And that, it can flux around. And it's always supposed to be backed by $1. But, how that all works. Tether was also, I believe, they had a hack as well, and some other issues, historically speaking. So
was the initial point of Tether to try to help facilitate transactions on exchanges? Because I feel like I've seen, I'm positive I've seen Tether on pretty much every major exchange, right? So you have your USDT, right? US dollar Tether. And the thing that's interesting about that is that you can trade USDT on a lot of exchanges to most other cryptocurrencies, and it's instant because it is a cryptocurrency, And
yeah. So go ahead.
Well, the thing I was going to say is that, like, all right. So if I go to Coinbase, right, and I try to transact Bitcoin to USD, just United States dollars, that transaction, like if I try to sell a Bitcoin, that could take like, up to like 3, 4, 5 days or a week even to have like the actual USD get in my account. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, so like transacting.
Right.
I think the point of USDT and Tether was that you could make United States dollar transactions happen faster with cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So they're definitely instant, right? So as soon as I have 500 USD Tether, then that's $500. It doesn't go up, doesn't go down. The downside is that you still are relying on a centralized system. So like when I want to go collect my dollars, I need to go to Tether to collect them, right? Eventually. I could give them to someone else for the equivalent value, so on and so forth, right? So an intermediary exchange. But when I actually want to collect that dollars, I have to go to them because they're the holder of those dollars. So, you shut down Tether and you could shut down the whole value of their currency, right? That's kind of the pegging of that to the dollar. So
Interesting.
I don't know.
It
is very interesting, but there is definitely some price manipulation going on, and that's what this article is about. It's actually a pretty more what do you call it? I would say more of like a peer review style article, as opposed to maybe some of the other stuff that has come out. But yeah, so
cool. Well, I've got one last thing I wanted to mention real quick that I thought was really interesting before we kind of shut down for the night. And it's that, so DEF CON for this year, they actually posted the talks that are going to be at DEF CON. And there's actually a couple cryptocurrency / blockchain kind of talks going on that I wish I was going to be there. I know, Steve, you're going to be there, right?
Yes, sir.
I think you're recording live.
Yeah. No.
I this is the first year I've missed a few, but I just have too much going on this summer. But anyways, there's a couple cryptocurrency talks that we should definitely at least check out the videos for, unless you're there in person, Steve, that might be worth checking out.
It might be worth checking out.
So one of them is called "You May Have Paid More Than You Imagine: Replay Attacks on Ethereum Smart Contracts." So they have a new paper that demonstrates a new replay attack based on Ethereum smart contracts. Probably worth checking out. And the second talk is taking a bite out of enterprise blockchain. It says in this talk we will discuss tools, techniques of attackers can use to target Fabric. To this end, we are demoing and releasing a new attack suite, Teniola, capable of performing network reconnaissance of a Hyperledger deployment, adding evil network peers to this deployment, using existing trusted peers for lateral network movement with reverse shells and fuzzing application code deployed on Fabric. Sounds awesome.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah.
Like both those talks I wish I could see. So if you're a DEF CON and you're into cryptocurrency, there's a couple talks for you. And also, what was the other thing, Steve? They have a village this year, right? A cryptocurrency village.
Yep. DEF CON has a Monero village, and it's not just all about Monero. There's actual tracks going on where they had a CFP and just closed recently. So
did you submit us, Steve?
Yeah, I submitted us, and I'm definitely not going.
Well, that seems par for the course for Steve.
No, we did not submit a talk. Had some cool ideas, just unfortunately did not have the time to put any of them together in time to reach the end of the CFP. But I'm hoping we see soon what talks did get accepted.
Cool.
Hoping it'll be kind of really detailed and focused on hacking of blockchains and stuff like that. So, sounds fun. Hope we get to see it. Hope I'm there and get to report on it.
Awesome. Well, all right. I think we have hit our time for the night, guys. You got any last comments you want to make for this episode number 22? Nothing.
Good. I'm glad you're back. I'm
happy to be back, man. I'm stoked to be back.
We missed you so much, you don't even know.
Well, it's been awesome, man. Episode number 22. Can you guys believe that we've done 22 episodes so far? This is crazy.
I cannot, but let's keep going.
Yes, let's do it. As long as people want to hear this stuff. I mean, actually, you know what? It doesn't even matter. We're gonna do it anyway. We don't even know who listens. But
even if you don't like it, but if you do like it, please let us know. If you don't like it, also let us know as well, so we can,
just
maybe.
not in a public comment, please. Just send us a private DM that you don't like it. That'd be best. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. We're at CoinSec Podcast on Twitter. Keep an eye on coinsecpodcast.com. As always, I'm going to post show notes there. All the links of all the stories we've talked about on the show tonight will be there. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. Hey, we're on Stitcher, Google Play Music, iTunes, Spotify, all the major stuff. So you have no excuse not to listen to the podcast. You can do it on any of them. Just subscribe and you can download the episode the moment it comes out.
I've almost got it perfected to where they're going to have to wear a tinfoil hat, or else I'm just going to beam our show right into people's heads.
Dude, like Jim Carrey in Batman Forever. Yep. When he's got the tube thing on his head, and he sucks in the information from all the TVs. That's kind of what's happening when you listen to our podcast. Yep. We're actually just trying to suck in all the Bitcoin information we can, get all the help we can get. Well, like Ralph said, if you like the show, leave us a review. If you don't, just send us a DM. It's fine. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. Ralph, Steve, hopefully Mike will be back next week. I'm sure he will. Hopefully
he'll be lost in a pile of boxes.
Yep, or in the desert somewhere. Well,
oh, man.
All right, guys. I am going to call it for the night, and we will see you next week. Thank you, guys. Over and out.
Later.